Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Wrestling Inc. AEW Dynamite After Show, and have we got a show for you? We've got debuts, we've got title changes, and I don't mean the people holding them, and we also have blood and guts. But before we get to all that, allow me to introduce the crew. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by Jimmy Korderas, and of course, the break glass in case of emergency, only for the big events like blood and guts, Jon Jordan. Jon, thanks for joining us on a Wednesday.
Good to be here. I was thinking about giving myself a little blade job, but I didn't want to get too committed to this and set the precedent for something down the road. So here I am, red brim, that'll do.
I'll say red brim. That is a great hat. Hitman 1982. Where'd you get that? Is that a real deal, or did you? This is
a Roots of Fight piece. They had a sale around Father's Day, and I took advantage for some new gear.
Very cool. I love it. Well, Jimmy, you're digging through some old merch there. Are those Pokemon cards? I don't think so.
No. Not merch, actually. These are old laminates from work. I even found the WrestleMania 18 one from the Skye Dome.
That was a doozy.
It'll always be Skye Dome to me. And I love these little ones that say all areas access except Vince's office. That was about it. But it's cool finding all this old stuff when you're cleaning up. You gotta look at the bright side of everything. Cleaning up is never fun, but when you find stuff like that, it's like, oh, okay, let's dig deeper.
Jimmy, you're still a child at heart. When I was a kid, my mom would say, go clean your room, and I'd end up just playing with all my toys. Never clean anything.
Shifting everything from one side of the room to the other. That's clean.
Yes, that's I'm still that way. When it's time to, I'm like, you know what? I should do dishes. But before I do, I might as well make myself something to eat so I don't dirty the clean dishes, right? So,
why not?
I've improved by nothing since I was a child. But man, we got a lot of stuff to chat about today. A lot of good stuff. I want to thank everyone who's joined us already in the chat, like Brianne Milligan here and Joe C getting ready to do some lurking, and B Smith _future firefighter 8. That name just rolls off the tongue. Appreciate you being here, BS Smith, and a lot of other folks here. We got some news to chat about. And I think the biggest news that's been going on has nothing to do with what we actually saw on the show. And it's kind of behind the scenes here. It's about AEW's negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery. Fightful Select has reported on Tuesday that those close to Warner Brothers Discovery say an announcement from either AEW or WBD regarding a new deal is not imminent, and that the framework of a deal currently isn't done. That doesn't mean an agreement is far off, however, as those in AEW and WBD still expect a deal to be reached and for both sides to continue their relationship for years to come. Now, Jon, that is a very positive outlook on it, and I have a feeling it'll work out. I'm not trying to spin this negative, but I think the other news that a lot of people have been following is Warner Brothers is fighting very hard for NBA rights now, and it looks like that could become very expensive. I have to imagine that is the domino that WBD is waiting to drop.
Yeah, with Amazon jumping in for the NBA rights, right? And then TNT exercising the right to, or TBS rather, to exercising the right to match. We'll see how that shakes out. But if the NBA is gone, does that benefit AEW? Because they want some sports-centric programming, right? That's one less thing they have. So they've got to deal with the NHL still in place. So that would be all they had left. I would think that, this could be a positive thing if the NBA does indeed move on.
Yeah, it's, the NBA is going to be a huge part of Warner Brothers, assuming they keep them. They've been a big part for a very long time. They're going to sue, apparently. At least that's what I'm gathering from Twitter. I'm not a legal expert, so don't expect that to carry a lot of weight, but that's what it sounds like it's happening. That's a long process. I don't know what that means for how long it's going to take for them to figure out what's going on with AEW, but I do know that the more people that sign away, the more time that Warner Bros. Has to fill, Jimmy. And it reminds me of when you're asking a date to prom and you wait too long and you've got all these girls you want to ask, but before you know it, they've all got dates. And suddenly you're down to the girl who wears glasses and likes to paint. And you got to figure out how to make her prom queen in 2 weeks. We've all been there, Jimmy.
Well, I haven't been quite there, but I understand your point. I know what you're getting at here. It is going to be a difficult situation here for Warner Brothers Discovery because, like you said, John, the NBA is playing a big factor into the negotiations, and I think they're playing wait and see what happens and whether this will benefit AEW down the road, regardless of whether they sign or they don't sign. That's the big question, and how it'll affect them if they don't sign back. If the NBA does not sign back with Warner Brothers Discovery, will it benefit? Does it give them more leverage? Does it give AEW more leverage and negotiating power to get more of a price that they're looking for? Maybe so, but we don't know the behind the scenes, and we don't know how much Warner Brothers Discovery, who financially didn't quite do so good, my understanding is, from a profit standpoint. So maybe, again, they don't have that much money to throw out there. And you have to look at the numbers. And unfortunately, at this time, TV ratings are a matter. They do matter to linear television. Well, so that does play a factor into it as well. And are the numbers satisfactory to Warner Brothers Discovery that will say, okay, they are worth this amount of money,
Yeah, John, this is again, we're all speculating here. I don't know what the actual situation is, but again, outsider looking in, I know that AEW is in an exclusive period where they can't talk to anybody else. They can only talk to Warner Brothers for right now. Of course, Warner Brothers let that time pass with the NBA, and now they're paying out the nose if they want to keep them or may lose them altogether. So AEW may also be in a little bit of a situation of, look, last time you let someone test free agency, it cost you a lot of money. You better lock me down. If you like it, put a ring on it, as Beyonce would say.
And that would be wise if that were the case. If we'd have to all give them props for being patient like that, understanding not only their contract or their agreement, but also others like the NBA properties. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I feel like you said earlier, Jack, that or that like the news report that we were citing said earlier that, it's expected that they'll come to terms at some point, but it's getting a little dicey now, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's really the whole broadcasting world, as it seems to be making it switch over to streaming. And I don't want to sound like a broken record because everyone said it. Streaming companies trying to find a way to be profitable, but that doesn't mean cable is dying any slower at the same time. So very weird time to be in. And at the end of the day, I just hope a lot of people make a lot of money. That's my hope. And I have a feeling AEW will be broadcast one way or the other somewhere. I got a feeling it'll probably be TBS and TNT because I think they're going to want to try to shore up those stations because not a whole lot of stuff isn't on streaming anymore. So they're going to want it there one way or the other. But we talked about some people who may not be on Dynamite when this happens, at least right away, or maybe they will. We don't know yet. A couple injuries at AEW. Skye Blue looks like she has suffered a broken ankle on Collision. We don't know exactly how long she'll be out with that, but of course that's no good. Jay White, as of this writing, seems to have an injury, which is why he is off TV, but it remains to be seen exactly what that injury is. Jimmy, thoughts on, Skye Blue, obviously a bummer to be injured at a time when it seems like the women's division is popping off, but you've been in wrestling for a long time. Any insights as to what could be plaguing Jay White if they're not letting us know what it is?
I'm hoping it's not a medical issue. Like if it was a tear in a tendon or something like that, or a ligament or something along those lines, or even a broken bone. Usually that's something that is, conveyed to the audience, conveyed to the fans to let them know this is the reason why. When they're keeping it in-house like this, I hope it's not, but it usually means that it's more something medical. And those are kind of private situations that you don't want let out to the public.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's nothing terrible. Hopefully it's nothing bad. I know, Adam Page recently was gone for a while and it wasn't for an injury. I don't believe it was for a personal thing that he had planned, but, John, any thoughts on these two injuries? Obviously we want him to get healthy as soon as possible.
Yeah. Best of luck to both and happy and fast healing. It is unfortunate anytime somebody gets hurt. And, again, certainly we hope it's not any sort of medical issue like Jimmy alluded to. There was a period of time, not just in wrestling, but also in the sports world, where sometimes head injuries or suspected concussions would be a little bit more mysterious. Like that, people are held out without actually really coming out and saying anything, but we don't know. Again, we just be speculating. I think that's unfair sometimes when you're dealing with an injury issue. As far as a broken ankle goes, I mean, you can read anything on the internet real quick that says 6 to 8 weeks or up to 12 or so on and so forth. Just unfortunate misstep, no pun intended at all. In fact, I didn't even mean to say that, but wish I do all the best as well.
Yeah,
no, you're a pro. That's how you were able to get that.
Yeah, exactly. And the Skye Blue injury was very unfortunate. It looked like, from a logistics standpoint, from what I saw when she caught, oh my goodness, now I'm drawing a blank on who she was working with, because she was the one receiving the crossbody, and it seemed like she couldn't take it straight back because of the positioning of the barricade. So she kind of crumbled down, and that's when it looked like it happened. So it was kind of awkward.
Ankle injuries just grimace me. I think because they're so relatable. We've all rolled our ankle before. We all know how. So whenever, like, the idea of it is just like cringy, because it feels like it could happen to anybody at any time. It's so close to being something that you might have to deal with yourself. So hopefully they get better soon. We got a show to talk about. Before we do, as always, though, I like to thank everyone for joining us. If you could do us a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you're watching later, as you're watching the show, leave a little comment and let us know what you're thinking. If you're not a part of the live chat, you can kind of have a post-live chat conversation there. I like to pop in every now and again and respond. So if you have any questions or comments there, that's always fun to see. But if you're here with us live, lurking, always appreciate our lurkers. Also, everyone who's holding down the chat: J.R. Smith, I Am Error, The King Art, Stephen Camp, Laura Rock, Daniel Barry, who hasn't been live chatting, but has been in the YouTube comments lately, Brianne Milligan, who already liked and shared, Sherrod Jones, Danny Cochran, Kenny, Young Lurker, and I don't know if I'm going to say your last name right, Kenny, Barcinas, I hope so. Ray J, Carrie Johnson, Fernando, Brian, and Ricky, and Stalking You with the little dog emoji always gets highlighted there. Question from Joe C for you. Jimmy says, good show tonight. Hey, Jimmy, did you see Earl Hebner's Montreal Redemption at Slammiversary? I was there. Awesome show.
Yes, I actually did, and it was a nice little. He got the proper response that Earl would probably get when he entered the arena. They weren't really happy with him, but it was good to see him get that redemption back. And I think it was Mustafa Ali who was the instigator for that, and good for him. And it was nice to see Earl get his redemption.
I thought it was cool that Earl's unique mannerisms are just that, uniquely Earl, aren't they? Like the way he waves his hands is a little awkward, a little different, but they haven't changed at all over the years. Pretty cool.
And showing that conflict, that whether do I ring it, do I do it, that sort of thing. He's good. Yeah, he's my mentor. What can I say? I got to put him over.
Oh, very cool. Low Vision Technology says, what's up, guys? I really enjoy watching the podcast. Keep up the great work with the channel. Thank you so much, LVT. We got some, you talk about your mentor. You're my referee mentor, Jimmy Korderas. Now, I'm not wearing the stripes, but you're the best referee I have access to. So so you're the guy.
Take what you can get, Jack. Yeah. Take what you can get.
Future Hall of Famer Jimmy Korderas here. So I have a question for you, and this vexed me all night. I wanted to know answers, and I wanted to know how this works. Now, we had 2 rings throughout the night, and obviously that was for the Blood and Guts match. Both rings needed to contain this, but throughout the night, we had other matches as well, singles matches, and we'll talk about those. My question to you is, how do the rules apply in the other rings? So if there's ring 1 and 2 and the match starts in ring 1, can you get counted out if you're in ring 2 for too long, or can you pin someone in ring 2, or does it still stick with ring 1? How do the rules work in that situation?
If you start the match in ring 1, then it works the same as any regular match. If you spill outside the ropes and you end up in ring 2, then the referee should begin a count. That is like a count out, like any other match. Ring 2 is not like ring 1A and ring 1B where you can continue wrestling in the other match. That match is still, for lack of a better term, out of bounds.
Interesting. Okay. So,
but if you fight up in the crowd for 5 minutes, that's okay.
It's right. Well, that's ring 1A is in the stadium, is in the stands. So yeah, that bugged me all night. Now, John, I know we had chatted a little bit about it. I don't know. Did you have any additional questions or any thoughts on the second ring? Because this is a rarity we see.
Yeah, right before we went on, you brought that up, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm so glad you were thinking that," because I wanted to ask Jimmy the same type of thing. And it was when we'll get to the match later, but when Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida had their match, they actually worked the outside of ring 2, so to speak. And I feel like every time we've seen War Games, Blood and Guts, what the difference is between the two is minute in some cases. But any other time when there's multiple rings, especially right next to each other like that, I feel like the unwritten rule is almost for the talent to forget that the other ring is there. I can't recall too many occasions where somebody has gone over into the other ring. I could be wrong there, but maybe that's the guidance you get ahead of time. Jimmy would know best of all, of course.
Well, again, you can spill out to the other ring to work like you're working outside the ring, having a fight outside. But again, the referee should enforce some rules there and try to get them back in the original ring. If I've seen situations where somebody tried a pinfall attempt in ring 2 if they start in ring 1, but the referee no, you can't. You have to get back over here, and that makes sense.
Fun.
If you're that's fun. You know what I mean?
I could see a frustrated Jericho-esque bad guy being like, "Oh, come on," and getting all upset that he has to then bring him into the other ring or something.
See, but now you got my wheel spinning. If you have a situation like that and you have, let's say, some EVPs in the match, in a regular match, and they spill out to the other ring, get over here and count or you're fired.
Right.
Which
now, I would say everywhere if I was the EVP.
Yeah, exactly.
So let us know about chat. Now, you guys have access to a future Hall of Fame referee. If you have questions regarding the 2-ring situation, let us know, and I'll make sure we get him in here for you. Beer Money had a question. I can't find it's right here. Mentioning, and we're not even to this match yet, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. Can they find a way to have no ropes on the second, on the 2 sides of the ring that touch so that we can see someone run those ropes? Now, Jimmy, I'm imagining that's just because they haven't built a 2-ring ring before, right, and that they're literally just 2 rings put together.
Right.
But any insight on that one? Could they make a 2-ring ring?
I guess it is possible, but then the ropes are always made to go around the 4 corners. They tie to each turnbuckle. So if you were to leave one side empty, it would pull the one turnbuckle off. If that makes any sense, it will pull towards where the opposite side of where there is no rope.
Yeah.
And if that makes any sense. So that's why there's always, you can't eliminate one side.
But you need exceptionally longer ropes, right? If you were going to do something like that. And then if we want somebody to run those ropes, what are you're going after everybody's lungs there, bud? Come on.
You would need to
slack a little bit, especially if you're one of the first people in the match. You have to be in there for like an hour.
Oh, and especially if someone can't run the ropes well, you'd be sitting. Is he coming back?
By the way, running the ropes a lot harder than you think it is. Let me tell you, it is a lot more draining than you think it is, folks.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's talk.
And hold on, really quickly too. And running the ropes, if you don't hit them right, you can really do some damage to your back, shoulder, or something.
I would say one of the things that I wish there was a safe way or a good way that, like at one of these fan events that of all these big companies have, where they would allow people to either run the ropes or take a bump so they could feel what that's like. Now, there's a million reasons why they're not gonna, because people are gonna get hurt.
A disclaimer.
But because once you've done both those things, and I am lucky enough to do it, your entire perspective of everything they do changes, because it is. I'm gonna tell you, like, they don't even talk about how dizzy you get having to like turn, because you're basically turning around the whole time. And oh my goodness, Jimmy, I do not have what it takes. If I was tough enough, I'd say I'm not, and I'd be done.
That is a drill in wrestling class where they make you run the ropes for like 10 minutes and you're like gassed by the end of it. But rings are different too. You look at the rings in AEW, and those are airline cables wrapped in like rubber, which is different from the WWE ropes, which are actual rope,
right?
Which is wrapped with tape. And back when I first started, the ropes were not as tight as they are nowadays because guys are doing so much more off the ropes where they need the ropes a little tighter. Back then they were so loose. You'd see guys like Hogan going into the ropes to drop that big leg, and he'd be almost in the second row when he was leaning on them, and like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I always like to say, like in WWE, for instance, it's a rope. And so a lot of people, there's this weird vision. Maybe it's because the way it looks, it feels like a rubber band. Like people kind of bounce off of it. You don't really bounce off of it. You just stop when you hit it, and you start running the other way again.
Well, I think this is one of those situations where everybody says, that's got to be pretty easy, right? It's absolutely not. The only comparable I can make to that is I've been to a couple like the College Football Fan Fest or this before the Super Bowl. If you go to the NFL Experience, what have you, you can kick an extra point. I think that's something that the average fan thinks is pretty easy. And then you get up there and you shank one like I did. You realize it's nothing like kicking a soccer ball. They give you 2 shots for a reason. I made my second one, I'll have you know. The first one was as ugly as can be.
Yeah, the first time I hit the ropes, I literally did like a I was like, oh, I think I did it wrong. Like, no. You get the marks on your back, and it was but and then I took my first bump, and I was like, give me the microphone.
You actually flat backed?
Yeah. Oh yeah, a couple times. I went to Santino Bros Wrestling Academy, so I've taken their beginners classes. Now I am in no way, shape, or form saying I could get in a ring and wrestle a match, but I've done some bumping around, some running, and let me tell you, that's why I do commentary and ring announcing today.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot different for a referee to bump too than it is for the boys, because you can't. My philosophy, and a lot of other that I've been told, your philosophy is not to bump like the boys. You can't look like you're a trained wrestler.
Right. Interesting. That's true.
Yeah. It should look a little off. And the hard part is protecting yourself at the same time while not taking a flat back and tucking your head to your chin and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's anyways, folks, it's tough. But Yes Boy has a question for us before we get into the show. I promise we're going to talk about this show, but Yes Boy, great question. If y'all were managers, who would y'all like to manage? Jon Jordan, I'm going to start with you. You get to manage somebody. Who are you managing?
Oh, man, that's a tough question and put me right on the spot. Geez. Let's see. I'm a little bit older. I'm a middle-aged guy, so I'd like to think that I could add some veteran savvy to a young up-and-comer. So maybe like a Javon Evans or something like that.
Bouncy.
Let's be a little less bouncy. Don't always have to be bouncing around. We're not Tigger here, from Winnie the Pooh. So
more of an Eeyore guy.
yeah. Maybe that'll be my gimmick name, huh? Eeyore.
Jimmy, now if you were ever in a different kind of situation where you were a manager instead of a ref, who would you manage?
Man, that's a tough one. I never even thought of that, especially someone today who could use a manager. I'm more along the lines of, if I was to do it, someone who doesn't need a mouthpiece per se, someone who could actually talk. I almost like a Carmelo Hayes, just be his kind of like, kind of like his go-to guy. What do you need, man? Here, like almost like I'm not going to put myself in the class. I'm just saying it, almost like in a Paul Heyman vein as an advisor, as opposed to and not really have to cut too many promos.
See, of course, all time, if I could do it, I'd do Lance Storm, my guy. He'd be the person. But today, look, I want to be rich, so I'm not gonna start with someone who's not already there. I'm gonna look at the top of the card, baby. Cody Rhodes. Oh, he could do his own talking. Great. Even easier. I'm just gonna hang out with Cody Rhodes in the suits and be like, check out my guy. He's fantastic. I would be with one of the top folks. I'd say Cody Rhodes. Cody, I'm going to be managing you. If it was AEW, then I guess it's going to be MJF would be difficult to hang out with on a regular basis. Maybe not MJF, maybe somebody else. And Swerve already has a manager. Will Ospreay.
Okay.
Me and Will Ospreay. He'd be like, "Hey, bruv," and I'd be pumped up and jazzed about it. Just like, dude, let's go. This is great. It'd be a fun time. But to everyone in the chat, if you could manage someone, let us know. And also, Ricky Sinclair has a really great point here. The likes aren't adding up. Everyone hit that like button while you're here. let's talk about this show. I have a feeling we're going to argue about it, and I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight everybody. I'm ready to fight the chat. I'm ready to fight everyone. I am ready to go. I was giddy during this show. Loved it, and it started off with a good one. MJF comes out and calls Ospreay weak and says his win was the easiest he's ever had. Then takes shots at Ospreay's grandma. Then he debuts a new championship. Well, it's a new name, I guess. The American Championship. Then after an American flag drops with it, Ospreay comes out and says he's getting his rematch at Wembley. This was a fantastic segment. I'm going to start with you're the guest, John. I'll start with you. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me this was not an awesome segment.
It had its moments. I enjoyed certain elements about it, but let's get one thing clear. That was not an American flag that was dropped behind MJF. That was an altered American flag with the stars replaced by his face. And I believe you're not supposed to do that. I don't think you're supposed to alter the American flag in its display in any way. Now, there was some debate in the Wrestling newsroom tonight between myself and someone who knows legal matters quite a bit more accurately than I do. We did find some flag code. There's one interpretation that says you're not allowed to alter the flag within the District of Columbia, and the other just in general. So listen, I wasn't out for blood. I wasn't angry. It was just something I noticed. My father's an Army vet, and I thought that was something that stuck out to me. Either way, I don't like people going after dead grandmas. I can tell you that. Hey, dads are okay. But come on, sweet little old grandmas. Come on, man. But hey, honestly, it's heel 101 what MJF is doing, which is pretty cool if you think about how popular he was not too long ago before his return. So he's doing great work there. It's good back and forth leading to the match, and I think the match being announced for All In, or not officially announced, but alluded to, was not a surprise for anybody. But MJF was and probably is your biggest star, right? So, and now we've got this title, and now it's been renamed also unofficially. It looks like Ospreay retrieved it from the trash, so he's still going to want to call it the International, and MJF's going to want to call it. So there's a lot of stuff that's going into that. But All In is your biggest event of the year. He's your biggest star, in my opinion. There's still some guys that are rising up the ranks very quickly. Ospreay as well. Maybe for a different title was in the hopes for somebody somewhere at some point, but they'll make the best of it, and it'll be a great match.
Now, John brings up a great point, Jimmy, about what was done to the American flag. And I know I don't know the law inside and out, but I can't argue when America's champion does something. That is what we do. We follow the leader of America's champion. So, Jimmy, as a Canadian, do you think that MJF has the right to change the American flag?
I'm going to leave that debate to the Americans. I don't want to get caught in the middle of this. I'm a neutral country. I am Canada, but as someone who has been a part of certain elements where they've implemented the American flag in the past, aka the Un-Americans, where the flag was actually presented upside down. I don't know. It is heat. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. It is heat by MJF. And you're right, John. What he has done brilliantly is when he came back, the crowd was hot. They wanted more MJF. Every time they wanted more. And he turned them into hating him, really detesting him. It's not even that where people are going, oh, yeah, I love him as a heel. He's doing a great job as a heel. They're going, oh, I hate this SOB, mm-hmm. Because he comes off as a real SOB. And when you're being real, that's why it resonates with the audience. But the only thing I had an issue with the opening segment was before the opening segment with MJF. Before that segment, we had what was it? Alex Marvez was in the parking lot. Where was this parking lot supposedly?
Yeah, that I would have liked, because I thought I missed it, but they didn't say it.
I maybe I missed it. Maybe it was pretty quick because I saw him flash up on my screen there. And then Will came in. It looked like he was in a hurry to get somewhere, and he went to his car and found the knife in the tire. And
yeah, so I thought I just missed it, so I didn't put it. I assumed the airport just because. Oh, Steven says it was at the hotel.
Okay.
Did they say it was the hotel, or is that an assumption?
Okay.
Yeah,
Either or.
the hotel parking lot.
Either or, regardless of whether it was a hotel, the airport, or your local eatery. What is Alex Marvez doing there? Isn't he supposed to be at the arena interviewing talent?
You know what I think he was doing?
Right.
Slashing Will Ospreay's tires.
Oh no!
I think Alex Marvez is on MJF payroll. That's what I think happened. I will say with that, you know what? This is just me. Maybe this is my stupid humor. I thought they missed an opportunity here to win. When Ospreay's like, is your car here, Alex? I thought they missed a great opportunity to turn and just show some beat up old dumpy car for Alex Marvez to be driving, and Will Ospreay be like, "That's your car," and then he has to drive that to the arena, and they can even do the old, like they do it in other companies all the time, where they drive up to the arena like they're all tough, but it's always the nice car, but they drive up in some dumpy beater. Because it's Alex's car.
Or like a tiny little smart car with both of them in the front.
I thought they missed a great comedy. Maybe it's better they kept it more serious, but I thought there was a great comedy gold there, like with a fake license plate that says like Marvez #1 or something.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, but they had a little bit of comedy in it when he threw a suitcase in the window and stuff like that. But you're right. Why is Alex Marvez driving an SUV that seats 10? You know?
Yeah, I was like, wow, Marvez is doing pretty good. Good for him. But overall, like this, I will say, justice for Daniel Garcia. He better get his shot. I felt like he got robbed in this whole thing. He had his time to shine, but he deserves his title shot. I also want to say, I think when I see things like this and segments like this, that flag, the first thing I think of is I imagine someone getting on the phone like, "Hi, this is Flag Makers for you. What's your order?" "Oh, with someone's face, you say? Like a small little fun thing?"
No, 50 of them.
Huge, you say. And someone had to actually sit there and like knit this giant flag with these pictures just for a 5-second drop. But that tickles me.
To close the loop there, I mean, I saw a couple comments in the chat. That is kind of the point I'm trying to make. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Some say it's a suggestion and not a law, so to speak, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But it is what MJF's supposed to do. Do the stuff you're not supposed to do. Make fun of somebody's dead grandma. Alter the American flag. Turn it upside down and put it on a T-shirt. Do whatever you have to do because of the booze. And to Jimmy's point, the reaction is still there when his music plays because people are conditioned to that. You can hear it in the crowd, and I was listening for it tonight. They all get fired up, and then they remember, oh, that's right. We hate this guy now. And you start to hear the booze trickle in. It's just going to grow and grow and grow the more heelish he works, which, as we've seen before, there's no limit to how far he can go.
Mm-hmm. It gets tough too because people do love him. So to keep people hating him, even and not in a cool way, it just shows how good he is at what he does. We move on to the learning tree: Chris Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki, and this one is a chop fest. I think we're allowed to say. Things eventually break down, and Jericho, you took a lot of notes on this one, eventually gets the win with a low blow and a Judas effect. After the match, Suzuki attacks Jericho, but pays for it when Big Bill and Brian Keith enter the ring and are eventually chased off by Shibata. Jimmy, going into this one, I'll be honest, I was kind of like, we talked about last week, Suzuki never wins, so I wasn't that pumped about it. I wasn't that excited about it. And if you told me that they were just going to chop each other for like 4 hours, I'd be like, oh, that sounds boring. But I'll be honest, they actually got me really into this match. Like, geez, how long are they going to do this? And they actually pulled me in with that. I think it worked. What was your take?
Oh, so you're the one. Okay, never mind. You know what? I was starting to get on board with this learning tree thing, especially last week when he drove the forklift and Samoa Joe threw a wall and they stretched Joe out. And I thought, okay, now we're starting to get into different territory with this learning tree. And then tonight they did the chop fest where they just stood there and chopped each other for 10 minutes and they lost me. I'm sorry. It didn't work for me. And then the ending, okay, I get it. It's the FTW championship where anything pretty much goes. The low blow and then the elbow, Judas effect, is that what you call it? Yeah. For the cover, fine. That's fine. But then when you take a low blow and you're up like 10 seconds later, putting a sleeper hold on somebody, again, you lose me, because if anybody who's ever been hitting the jewels knows it takes a lot longer than 10 seconds to recover from something like that.
It's that the end of the match kind of bothered me too, but honestly, that I'm fine with it, because Minoru Suzuki is that tough guy that's supposed to be able to get through that kind of stuff. The reason I wasn't as excited about the end, John, I want your thoughts on the match in the end as well, but Jericho to me has reached that level of villain where I feel like you shouldn't get to see him get hit with a pile driver until the big moment. You know what I mean? When Hook comes back, like, he should get away with it. So, and it's easy to look, hindsight 2020. I'd imagine like Suzuki standing up and then Big Bill cutting him off. So they're like, oh, come on. I want to see someone get their hands on Jericho. And when it happens, it's bigger. I don't like that Jericho took the pile driver. And now when Hook does it, it's because Hook's eventually going to get him. I'm going to feel a little bit like, yeah, but everyone got Jericho.
Yeah, of course, it's a little too soon, right? But also, I think what takes away from what was cool about this last week, we thought maybe they were turning a corner, right? This has been intentionally hokey the whole time, right? Yeah. And now all of a sudden there was a little bit more of a vicious side with all this violence coming from Jericho that ultimately culminated in Samoa Joe getting forklifted through a wall. And now we're back to hokiness the very next week. And the only thing we really saw that was kind of conniving was the low blow at the end there, and then then of course he gets victimized, which kind of takes away from that too. So, but good on a seasoned vet like Minoru Suzuki putting over a young up and comer like Chris Jericho here. I thought that was great, and I also one thing I want to see while Jericho's still in this incarnation of the Learning Tree is I think he needs even smaller shorts, because they're just not small enough. Let's really get crazy here, Chris. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do like how they seem like they were getting a little more sadistic before. Feels like this one. I mean, Jericho, I guess, he was bleeding from his chest, so you got to give him something there. But I think on commentary they said by the skin of his teeth, and I was thinking, no, by the skin of his teeth. That's what you should have said. But again, Doug Graf says hokiness is in the eye of the behokened. Yes, I love it. So I like the match. I like the Learning Tree, but I felt like I feel like Jericho, when it finally happens, he shouldn't get hurt until like the big moment where we all get to cheer. And I know we have a cage match later on to talk about, but it's that he's that guy that gets stuck in the cage with the person he doesn't want to fight and is like begging, like, no. We're like, finally we get to see it, but he already got attacked. So I don't know. I'm sure by next week I'll change my mind and go, I love it again. We had a backstage segment with Bryan Danielson and Jeff Jarrett. Danielson's just chatting with Renee about the damage to his neck when Jeff Jarrett shows up, and he cuts a promo about how it hurt him to lose the Owen and how he appreciates how much Danielson overcame to win it. But Danielson sounds like he's already got one foot out the door and he needs to be all in. Jimmy, let's talk to me about this promo and I don't know if it's fair to say the renaissance of Jeff Jarrett, but just, man, he has been a force in promos since the Owen started.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we saw the heartfelt one he cut before he had his match with Hangman, and now we're seeing him almost trying to encourage Bryan Danielson. I keep doing it, but Bryan Danielson to stop thinking about those sort of things and stop doubting himself and stop letting the demons get into his head and concentrate on what he can do and what he knows he can be. And I love that from Jeff Jarrett. And the way he said it, it felt so heartfelt again, coming from him, the way his tone, his inflection, everything, it came from the heart. Mm-hmm. And it felt really good. In that little moment where he just sat down beside him and gave that parting little line and walked away. Beautiful. It was beautiful. I loved it.
John, any takeaways from this one? I have no notes. Jeff Jarrett I've always been a fan of Jeff Jarrett. I'm a late period WCW fan, famously. So slap nuts was my put down for a while. But Jeff Jarrett to me just feels like he has really tapped into something.
He is a Double J. I can't hate on him. You know, it's up for debate as to who the real Double J still is. But
right.
No, I think Jimmy's onto something there. I think from that initial promo, the emotional promo at the beginning of the Owen Hart tournament, he really tapped into something, and I think it's carried through. Sometimes when you really dig into those real emotions, which obviously Jeff Jarrett has, with anything under the Owen Hart umbrella, he probably recognized that too. He's been around the game forever, right? And he realized that really resonated with people. So now it's not the same thing over and over again. It's just feeding off that real emotion again. And now in this case, it's kind of passing that on to, I almost did it myself, Jimmy, to Bryan Danielson, as he seems to maybe sort of start questioning himself, right? So I think that's what you're seeing here is the residual of that first promo, and it's just carrying over and over, and just getting all that it's worth out of it.
We move on to Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. Old rivalry renewed as these two have a good matchup, with Britt getting the win. And she wants to head to a match at Wembley with Mercedes, but Mercedes is like, unfortunately, no. So Camille debuts and just takes out the Doctor. Again, I told you I love this week, so I'm going to say I love this bit quite a lot. I love Hikaru Shida. I want to see her more, Jon Jordan. I like Britt Baker getting a strong win against an old rival, and Camille showing up. I'm getting Diesel and HBK vibes with her and Mercedes. What are your thoughts?
You're right on point with that. I noted a few things here. Number one, good to see Britt Baker back in the ring. Number two, her and Shida, like you said, a strong win for Baker, but not too strong. They battled for quite a bit there, and they used all that extra outside, like I was talking about as well. And then I think one thing that you didn't mention, but I noted, before the match, they did a really good job via video package, kind of recapping their feud previously and other key elements from Britt Baker's career, because we haven't seen a lot of her in a long time, right? And so there might be some people that weren't around for all that. I think AEW needs to do more stuff like that and recognize when the time is right for that sort of thing. And then, of course, Mercedes Moné comes out. Talk about someone who's starting to do a really good job leaning into the heel side of things when people wanted to cheer her right away. That CEO chant has died down a little bit, I think. And then Camille showing up, you likened it to Shawn and Diesel. First thing I wrote down was nice heater from Moné. That can add a real nice twist to her presentation.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Camille. I had the chance to speak with her on Wrestling Inc. back when she was a record-setting NWA Women's Champion. Jimmy, your thoughts on get like Camille, especially as now the women's division does seem to be growing, and we'll talk more about the women's division in just a little bit. Thoughts on this segment, Mercedes, Britt, but also Camille, and do you think they should have mentioned her being an NWA champion here?
Yeah, first of all, I'll start with the match. I thought the match was really good, especially considering her lack of ring time. I mean, you can get your reps in the gym, but it's not the same as performing in front of a crowd. So Britt looked okay, a little bit. She shook the rust off tonight, and I think that was a really good first step for her. And again, having a match with someone that she has history with helps too. It helps the audience get into it as well. And the video package, like you said, John, obviously helps in that situation. Mercedes, I think this is going to help her having someone like Camille as her heater. I think I like that vibe. The only thing is, Camille debuting tonight the way she did, it almost felt like the crowd wasn't very familiar with her. And I would have liked, like you said, Jack, it would have been nice to explain who she was instead of saying, oh, that's Camille.
Right.
Give us a little backstory, because even those watching at home are probably saying, wait, I've heard the name, but I'm not very familiar with her. And mentioning that she was in the NWA and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with mentioning another company. We're seeing everybody start to do it now that people are coming in from elsewhere. It makes your company look that much more influential when you name another company that they're coming from. It makes it sound like they chose them over them. So,
especially a company like NWA that has so much history and regardless of whatever they're doing now, I mean, it's got history to it. So if you've been an NWA champion, that means something. But she wasn't just a champion for a little bit. She was, like I said, a record-setting championship reign. So I feel like it would have been nice for them to mention, or even if they did the vague, she's set records as champion in other companies. But I feel like they were intentionally not naming them because they're very quick to talk about CMLL and New Japan and other companies. So I don't know if there was a reasoning for not mentioning that. But again, I think it would have helped a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, instead, and all we got was that's somebody stumbled over their words. I don't know if it was Shivani or who it was, but that's Camille. We've seen her before here. It's been a while, but we've seen her before. And then it really wasn't much of anything. But I have a question for you guys. Camille is a physical specimen. She stands out. She's tall. She's got a great physique. The whole presentation is there. Mercedes Moné is significantly smaller in stature than her. Do we think that she wore exceptionally tall shoes tonight to not be outshined by her new protege potentially? Or was that an oversight? Because all the details matter. You want this new star coming in to look great, to be the impressive physical specimen that she is, right? But at the same time, you don't want to cut the legs out, again, no pun intended, from under your one of your most prominent stars as well.
Yeah,
Jimmy, what's your take on that? I have a feeling that Mercedes just wants to look good, and so she knew she'd look good in the heels, and she was still going to look much smaller than Camille at the end of the day. But look, to be fair, when we met, I wore heels, so I looked the same height as you.
No, you're taller than I am, Jack. Let's be honest. I wore the lifts in my sneakers that day, but you're right, John. Little details matter, and when you're going to debut someone and you want them to look bigger and larger than life, then go all out. Yeah, she can wear a little bit, but those shoes she was wearing tonight they were a little more elevated than she normally wears. I know she does wear some, higher shoes, for lack of a better term. I don't know the proper terminology for the type of footwear, but they looked a little extra height. There was a little extra height in those shoes. Let's put it that way. I think it would have benefited her more showing the height differential to accentuate Camille and show it doesn't. I don't think it hurts Mercedes at all, showing that she's that much shorter than Camille. I don't think so, anyways.
Well, Graf says when Jack wore heels sounds like a History Channel series. So yeah, I'm excited for Camille though, and again, I'm excited for the AEW Women's Division. They're doing a lot of cool stuff. We had a very quick matchup here. I don't know if there's much to take away from it, but we'll cover it because we cover everything. Pac versus Boulder. Pac's number one contender for the American Championship. This one's pretty quick, but still impressive. Pac hits a brain buster on the massive Boulder. John, what I like two things about this matchup. Again, match is pretty straightforward, but it's a rare AEW kind of just making a challenger look strong kind of matchup. And two, they're reminding us Pac is waiting and they're keeping him hot for when he gets that championship match. I think AEW of the past, kind of like you mentioned with showing us the video package, I think in the past they wouldn't have done it. Now they are. I guess I just want to tip my cap as a win for them or a good move for them.
Yeah, it was a minor thing, but like we said, minor things matter, and I noted that too. It's good to keep that fresh in people's minds, and they're going to have to do that a couple more times with Pac in particular because I don't think he's going to get that shot for a while right now. He said he doesn't care who commentary said he doesn't care who he faces. He wants a shot at that title.
Right.
I wasn't familiar with Boulder myself, but a big, huge guy like that, and Pac gets a real strong win, so all positives for him. But a nice, a nice little mention there to remind people that he's in that international/American title picture.
Yeah, Jimmy Boulder from the early AEW days, he was part of a tag team with I think it was Bear Bronson and Bear Boulder, I think, and now it's just Boulder and Bear. I don't know what they haven't been on. At least I haven't seen them on AEW Dynamite in like years. Big fellas. Is Boulder one of the better, just old school big guy wrestling names you're going to come across?
Yeah, it's since the days of the Flintstones. It feels like he's been wrestling. You know what I mean? Boulder, it just fits though. But he looked okay for the limited time that he was in there, and doing that the somersault, the reverse somersault, actually was very impressive for a big guy his size. So. I just like John. It's like I totally forgot he actually even performed in AEW earlier. It's been so long. So, but like you said, you got to keep Pac fresh in everybody's mind because he is the number one contender. And it would have been nice to hear Pac himself say that it doesn't matter who it is. There's still plenty of time until, until All In.
It's actually kind of a long time until All In.
It is,
Yeah.
Well, a quick peek at a cage match tells me that they were referred to as Boulder and Bronson were referred to as Iron Savages in AEW for a time. But even cooler, Boulder was once named Beefcake Charlie, and I think he should have stuck with that. That's a cool name.
Beefcake Charlie. If he's not using it, Wrestling Inc., please change my name tag here to Beefcake Charlie.
That's money. That's money, kid.
That is a great name. Beefcake Charlie. Oh my God, that is a fantastic name. Please, Tony Khan, if you're watching, just change the name to Beef. Look, you don't need he doesn't have to cut another promo a day in his life. Just introduce him as Beefcake Charlie. We'll love him. That's
keep it for yourself though, Jack. Next show you're on, I'm not sure when it is. Just have it up there. Don't change your handle.
That's Beefcake Charlie.
Yeah. Just put it in there.
What a fantastic name that is. Jeez Louise. We got a couple of backstage promos. Willow Nightingale, she's a new champion in CMLL, and Chris Statlander wants a shot at it. Meanwhile, the Patriarchy are the trios champs, and Nick Wayne is going to win Royal Rampage and mentions to Kip Sabian he's throwing him out personally. For those who wonder, Royal Rampage is a match that works similar to the WWE's Royal Rumble match. 20 AEW stars entering at staggering intervals as they aim to throw their opponents over the top rope. However, 10 wrestlers will be assigned to one ring, while the other 10 are assigned to the second ring. Once each ring has one man left standing, they will attempt to dump each other out over the top rope until one remains. So, little different, same idea. Any takeaways from these promos, Jimmy?
I wasn't, totally thrilled with it, but actually Nick Wayne wasn't too bad in his promo. I thought he did all right. We don't get to hear him a lot, but I thought tonight it was a nice step forward for him as far as his progression and his character. It was a nice little surprise for me.
It's I thought he actually did pretty darn good considering he just turned 19, John. That is insane to me. He's been on TV. He's been on AEW TV for a year, and he just turned 19 years old. That is ridiculous. He can't even go to the bar. He can't even get a drink with the guys afterwards.
You guys don't want to know what I was doing when I was 19, and I don't want to talk about it. So, kudos to him. Christian Cage had a really good segue to turn it over to him as well by saying that he's earned the right to speak. I think that's great. That continues their, relationship in the way that we've seen it grow. Kip Sabian, it's good to see him back a couple weeks in a row now, or a couple shows in a row at least. And he's got a place in the Royal Rampage. Yeah. Gosh, I understand, not everything's going to be completely original. And, there's only so many different ways to do a Battle Royal or even a Royal Rumble style. But, man, the name's just too close. The alliteration there and everything else. I have a hard enough time with Brian Danielson. I'm going to call this the Royal Rumble. I'm not going to call the Royal Rumble the Royal Rampage, but I'm going to get confused here at some point.
So I got a question, though, about that match. Does the match start off with 10 in each ring, or they come in intervals? It
says they come in intervals.
I think it's 2 in each, right?
I'd assume it starts 2 in each, and then it's intervals from there. That's what the rule said. I mean, at least that's what I'm reading from the article on Wrestling Inc. So assuming we wrote it right.
Okay. See, the problem I have with that is the attention of the audience, whether it's at home or in the arena. When you've got action going on in 2 rings and 2 separate stories being told in the ring, where do you focus your attention on? That's the difficult part. That's going to be the challenging part of presenting this. And on television, do you put a split screen up there and have one ring action on one side and the other ring's action on the other side? But then again, where does the viewer focus their attention on? It's almost like we always complain about the picture-in-picture where you're trying to watch the match in a postage stamp. Mm-hmm. And you've got all these, these ads for food places and car rental places and President Law Institute and all this sort of stuff. So, That's the only challenge with these types of matches.
And that's the thing. It's going to be on Rampage. I'm sorry, Jack. This is on another televised show, a regular TV show. So you're probably going to have picture-in-picture too on top of that, trying to keep track of this thing. I think you're going to need a scorecard, is what you're going to need, and that's just it goes back to one of Jimmy's famous catchphrases: X amount of potatoes in a Y pound bag, right? Like,
it's I feel like a match like this should be on a Dynamite personally, but I also understand them not wanting to do this next week on Dynamite because people go, you just had a big multi-man thing, now you're gonna do another big multi-man thing. We'll talk about Blood and Guts in a second, but one thing I kind of wish they'd do with Blood and Guts, and I thought was more kind of fun, they kind of did it this week, or this time around, but WCW one time did it where they added the stipulation: the person that gets the win, that makes the pin or whatever, also gets a world title shot. That's how DDP got his title shot against Goldberg famously. Again, I watched late period WCW. I was all about it. I think that should be something that they add to War Games and to Blood and Guts. Just makes it interesting. Who's going to be the person that gets the pin? And also, if you're a bunch of ne'er-do-wells, it makes you not want to work together because you're like, hey, I want to be the one that gets the pin because I want the title shot, not you. And so I thought it adds a lot of fun to it. But let's continue on to a very fun part of the show. The Glamour. Mariah May takes on Caitlin Alexis, and it's a dominant win for Mariah May in her debut as the Glamour. But after the match, Toni Storm's music hits, and it was just Mariah May trolling us until Toni actually showed up, and they brawl, and Toni Storm gets on that microphone and says, "Are you ready to die?" I was like, yes, let's go. I love this. These two, they are cooking it up, man. This is one of my favorite stories in all of wrestling right now.
High point for me, for sure, too. I wrote down that somebody needs to check on Caitlin Alexis. Was that the name?
Yeah.
Poor thing. She took a beating pretty good there. Mariah May looked great. Toni Storm looked great, too, when she pulled off the wig and the hoodie, whatever it was, and exposed that it was her. And are you prepared to die? Because I am. They've got a high-profile women's championship match here that's now also turned into a blood feud, and that really has run rocket shot up the card for All In, as far as I'm concerned. People, if they're not, should be looking forward to that. One little wrinkle that I understand, but at the same time I don't. Mariah May's out there with the title belt that she won from the Owen Hart tournament, right? Which prestigious. I love honoring Owen. It's fantastic. But like, how long is she going to carry that around for? Because now we got more belts, and that's kind of what this company's all about, is like belt after belt after belt, and then rename the belt, and somebody else calls the same belt a different name. But just one little thing there, I popped into my head, so I figured I'd mention it. And then we always talk about details. Toni Storm's facials at the end there, not just screaming out, "Are you ready to die?" She's just fantastic. She's been nailing it for months now, and I only see her getting better.
Yeah, I agree with you on the belts. I think I'm kind of torn on this with the belt, because I feel like if the belt is you kind of trading it in for a title shot. So I feel like it's a bit repetitive. AEW or WWE has Money in the Bank, so it doesn't look like a championship. But I feel like if you treated it like a Money in the Bank, not like that you could cash it in, but like I hold it until I'm saying now I'm taking my championship shot. Because visually, it's just a little confusing, especially when you have someone who is dressing as the person they're challenging, when both of them have championships. And it's like, who's the champion? Who's winning? Again, we watch.
It's not like she's going to be defending that belt either. You know what I mean? So to me, like, you win the O, and it's something you're so proud of. You take home, you put it on your mantle. It earned you this shot, right? You don't want, nobody's going to take it from you. So it's just a weird little intricacy for me, and I'm not sure how you iron that out.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I've been playing a lot of college football 25 on PlayStation lately, and so I guess it's kind of like when you win your conference championship, and then it's like if your team brought that championship to the bowl game. Yeah, you're like, wait, are you fighting for the championship or the bowl game? Why is that? Like, this is the next thing. Jimmy, I want your overall thoughts on this. Again, I'm a big fan of it. Stephen Camp has a comment in the chat, though, says Storm return was weak. Should have waited a few weeks more. What is your takeaway there?
I see his point, especially considering we have so much time until All In. This could have obviously waited. I would have avoided the physicality. A couple little screws that I would have had tightened. When Mariah May had the music play, Toni Storm's music, and then she laughed like she trolled everybody. When they did the wide shot from the hard camera, you saw someone dressed in all black run by behind her outside on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you gotta have communication with the truck, little production, have a production meeting with everybody, say, this is what we're doing. Make sure you don't shoot the other shot they had from the floor shooting up at Mariah May, keep that shot. And then when the other little thing that I would have tightened the screws on, the big reveal when Toni Storm got in the ring, took the wig off, threw it down, and it just took too long for me with Mariah May's back turned to her and Toni Storm staring at her. If someone had done that to me, I'm not waiting that long. Yeah, you want to look them in the face, but at the same time, I'm not waiting as long as she did to get my retribution and get into it. Other than that, I thought it was good because Mariah May is looking like so vicious.
Yeah.
Like she did it against Alexis there. And like you said, John, I hope she's okay. She took one for the team tonight. Yeah. That's for sure.
I think with the waiting between how long, I think they were going for that moment, the stare down moment. I like that they went when they fought, and it wasn't, it felt like the fighting felt angry. Now I know a lot of times they do the hold, the thing. Mm-hmm. So it would have been cool if they went to the ground and stuff, but I get that that's also part of just how I also hate it when people slam their head into the turnbuckle. I feel like that always looks a little corny, but I just accept that that's just how it looks sometimes. So it didn't bother me, but that's just kind of a personal thing. I think this has to be the best women's championship rivalry they've ever had in AEW. I feel like this has to be maybe the best women's story in AEW history. This might be the best story in AEW right now. This is I love this stuff. Am I off my rocker here?
No, I think it's got the most heat. That's for sure. Because of that, we saw such an angle a couple of weeks ago where she dug her shoe into Toni Storm's head, her own shoe. And how often do we see women bleed?
Very well, actually,
but
not as often.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Not like that. That was different than most. Like we see, a bloody nose here, a bloody lip there, but we don't see somebody getting some actual crimson masks.
And I want to say to Steven's point, there's a part of it that feels like they could have waited because this does feel very hot right now, and there's a long time to go. And I worry, I don't know how you keep it this hot if they're seeing each other every week. And they could have done something where Toni Storm or Mariah May trolls the audience with Toni's music every week, and then maybe one time, after she does it a few weeks in a row, then she shows up and it gets that she actually is here. But
I like that.
Yeah, because then everyone's like, oh, she's doing it again. And then that one time, oh no, she is here. That'd be kind of shock everybody. But this is one of my favorite stories in wrestling right now, so they have earned my trust. So if they say this is when it's time to do it, I say this is when it's time to do it. Good. Let's go. Kind of like bloodline story stuff. I had all these notes whenever I'm watching WWE. They should do it this way. And every time I'm like, oh, no, they were right. So they have my trust here. We get to the end of the show, though. Blood and guts. Elite takes out Christopher Daniels, and they rig the coin flip so that they get the one-man advantage. Team AEW is having all sorts of issues before the match even starts. Blood and guts match lives up to his name. It's pretty bloody and it's pretty gutty. Things become interesting when Adam Page doesn't show up, only to attack Swerve from behind when he enters the ring. Handcuffs Swerve. Swerve can't get in. Matt Jackson threatens to fire Page if he doesn't get in the ring and fight. That adds a little bit of tension for a moment before eventually Jarrett comes out, gets Swerve into the match. It all boils down to Jack Perry eventually getting handcuffed to the cage, and Darby threatens to light Perry on fire. Matthew Jackson gives Darby a TNT title shot and quits the match in order to save Jack Perry. Lot of stuff. John, I'm not gonna lead you too much. I want to know your thoughts on this one.
Oh, I in my head, I was like, please don't go to me first. So much stuff. I wrote down far too much to even share. You know, I even wrote down to ask Jimmy how many pounds and what size sack was this. I mean, it all started for me in the beginning, like the details. We keep going back to the details, and I think AEW has gotten better at a lot of things and has promise in so many areas, but little things. They went through this big overhaul with the Young Bucks, right? Where their names are Nicholas and Matthew now. Did you guys catch?
Yes, I was. It's in my notes. They were introduced. They were introduced.
He should have thrown a fit about that. He should have thrown a fit about that. You know what I mean? That's a threaten the ring announcer's job right then and there. Maybe not right then and there because we had too much talking in this match to begin with in the middle of the match, but that's neither here nor there. That's later. One thing I did like that I wanted to throw out there before I nitpick a little bit, maybe a lot. Mark Briscoe coming out is when everything got cranked up to the next level. That's how it should be with him. Very, very cool. You know, I got to skip some of this stuff. It will be on here all night, but let's jump to the scissors thing real quick, please. Like, you know, we're going full psycho. No, not that kind of scissors. That's cool, but we're going full psycho on the forehead, and then we're ripping somebody's mouth apart. That kind of led me astray. You know, I get the connection, right? The Acclaimed is in a vicious match here. That's been their thing the whole time, scissoring and whatnot, but I mean, you know, they invoked Abdullah the Butcher's name, which is great, but that just doesn't play in this day and age, man. And I got lost later all the way, and maybe I'll jump in when you guys touch it so I don't cannibalize this or dominate this segment. But the scissor thing really kind of sent me sideways.
So full disclosure, I've said before, I'm not a huge deathmatch guy. Not really into thumbtacks and barbed wire and stuff like that. So probably not up my alley as far as a lot of the stuff that actually happened in this matchup. I did find myself enjoying it more than I typically enjoy Blood and Guts and War Games matches. I would say War Games matches and Blood and Guts are, everyone's going to come at me with a pitchfork, kind of like last man standing matches where I feel like they sound good on paper, but in the end, I feel like we spend so much time just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for it to actually start, you know? And like with last man standing match, there's so many times where we're just waiting, like why they count to 8 and the guy stands up. Okay, count to 8 against. And this is like we're waiting for people to get into the ring. We're waiting for things to get going. But I was actually pretty into this one. And I actually think because there's a lot of story beats throughout this that I actually enjoyed. I really loved the Swerve Hangman stuff, but also the pivot of, as you can see, it's going to eventually pivot to Hangman Okada versus the Elite and Okada, maybe specifically, as they keep Swerve and Hangman on the back burner. I think this is a brilliant leveled storytelling that AEW in the past has struggled with doing. So I really enjoyed that. But Jimmy, your thoughts on this one? Also, I'm going to throw this out there. This is crazy. I know we already have Tony Khan as the guy everyone goes to. Christopher Daniels, they're trying to make that guy. I feel like already too many times he's been walked all over. I'm throwing it out there. Tony Khan, you're no longer making decisions. Christopher Daniels, you can focus on wrestling and other backstage duties. I say our new GM is Jeff Jarrett with his guitar. I think he's the guy that can make it all work. He's the guy that can stand up to people, but at the same time, he's the guy that can be like, sorry, champ, you're going to have to defend against this jerk. I think Jeff Jarrett, with the promos he's been doing and the character work he's been doing in a position of power, would be awesome, Jimmy.
I hate to agree with you, but I like that idea. I didn't think of that. I do like it. Jeff Jarrett would fit in perfectly like that, especially now in the he's a friend of mine, so I hate doing this, later stages of his career. Obviously, he's had more time behind him than he has ahead of him in the ring. But he did prove he still can go. So if you need a authority figure in the ring to actually battle somebody, Jeff is your guy. Not to say that Christopher Daniels isn't, but Jeff, someone who resonates with the audience a lot more. And we see in the last couple of weeks, the people are behind him. He gained their trust, for lack of a better term. But as far as the match goes itself, again, I have probably a lot of the same issues that John does. Jotted down the scissor thing got me. The staple gun was another one that just like, come on, guys. I get it. Everybody's trying to top Mick Foley. Don't do it. Just stay in your lane. It's brutal enough being inside a structure like that. Yeah. And you have tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my! And then you have to have thumbtacks and put them in somebody's mouth.
Ugh.
I mean, like, come on, man. I've had to count in thumbtacks with my hand, and my hand. Trust me, my hand is very calloused. So that hurt like you know what. So I can't imagine what it's like to land them, but to put them in your mouth. Come on.
No, yeah. Like I said, typically these aren't my wheelhouse, death matches and whatnot. But come on, Jimmy, you had to pop a little when Swerve stapled Okada's middle finger. That was kind of funny.
That was the best part of the staple gun. That was the best part. You know what I mean? And the other things too. I forget which Buck was handcuffed to the ropes when he saved Jack from getting burnt, set on fire.
Yeah.
But a heel sacrificing himself for his partner, that's a babyface move.
Yeah.
I actually thought that too. I agree. I get that you have to get to that point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it did feel a little bit like Matt Jackson should have been the one who was about to get hit. And he, and then everyone is saying, no, don't do it, Matt. And he's like, forget you guys. I'm saving myself. And,
right.
Or Okada maybe is that guy who says,
right.
I don't like these matches. This is your thing.
Yeah.
I agree. Him saving. I thought it was also kind of weird. It just came across weird. And maybe with Darby Allin is like, I want you to quit this match, but also I want a title shot. I was a bit like,
by the way,
whoa, where did that come from? Way to look out for yourself, pal.
That's what I was going to say, Jack, when you were mentioning earlier that, back in the day at WCW, the person who gets the pinfall or gets the finish earns a world championship match, right? Agree with you. I'm all for raising the stakes, but the last thing we needed in this one was anything else. We got everything in this. And, come on. Can we be done with the fire thing already? Like, we're not lighting anybody on fire. I understand like Inferno matches in the past and things like that, but you're dousing the guy with gasoline. That's a felony. Let's just stop. Stop with that. There's other ways to get your title match. There's other ways to get the finish here. And they already did fire with this particular guy already, not too long ago. So
yeah, they did light someone on fire.
Yeah, they lit Jack Perry on fire and he came back in the same match and got the pin. So yeah, we already know he's the Human Torch.
Because he's the scapegoat. You can't stop. Right. Look, I actually love that Jack Perry did not quit. I like that Jack Perry stayed in there. I think that what they're doing with this character, I'm a big fan of it. I know it's divisive. Some people hate it. Some people. I think that Jack Perry has been phenomenal, and I think that the fact that they protected him here was great.
But he wouldn't have lost any steam, in my opinion, if the Bucks said, when Darby Allin said, "Quit, or I'm setting him on fire and give me that title match," and they said, "Set him on fire," and he went over, and Jack Perry, with the lighter coming towards him, he says, "Okay, I quit." I don't think he loses any steam that way.
We'd all quit.
Yeah. Who in their right mind wouldn't quit?
You know what? Instead of a lighter, it should have been a mat, like a little matchbook. And and when he went to go light it, Jack Perry should have been and blown it out like a Looney Tunes. And he keeps trying to light him and put him on Jack Perry. Jack Perry keeps blowing him out until he runs out, and then he's like, I guess I can't light you on fire.
Or have one of those little handheld torches that Kane used to have with him when he tried to light the Brood and myself on fire.
But I like I said, I don't think you want Jack Perry quitting. But at the same time, Sonny Sitar actually makes a good point. Jack was the scapegoat for the Elite's loss, so they can play that up. That is a good point, Sonny. So. Again, not my favorite match type. I was actually pretty interested in this one. even though it was just a car wreck, as these kind of matches typically are. But that rounds us out for the night. Again, I thought it was a great show. I enjoyed it pretty much top to bottom. I don't think as I scanned through here, there was anything that I didn't really enjoy a whole lot, except for maybe Suzuki getting one on my guy, the learning tree. So as we wrap up, everyone in the chat, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Jimmy, final thoughts, and where can the world find you online?
I thought the show was okay. There were some moments there that obviously I thought didn't resonate with me. Obviously, you felt differently, Jack, but that's the beauty of this. We can't always all agree. And, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks were steps forward, and this was kind of steps sideways, if that makes any sense. But as far as where you can find me, here on Wednesday nights after Dynamite, like tonight, and on Mondays after Raw, you can find me here as well. You can find me on the Roughing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and RJ, our producer, who holds all that glue together, because I have no clue what's going on with these boards anyway. And this week, our guest, Joe Galley from NWA. Really great conversation. The guy is really, really smart and knows what he's talking about. So that was a fun one. And of course, my Ref and Rants from Monday to Friday on all my social media platforms, where I like to tighten screws that I believe need tightening.
Yeah.
And quickly, nothing that I could say out loud, but there's some stuff in the works. Let's put it that way.
Ooh.
Teaser.
Hall of Fame. Yeah. Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
I wish. But anyway.
Well, John, always great having you on. Thanks for coming through. Any final thoughts from you, and where can the world find you online?
Yeah, I kind of echo what Jimmy was saying. There were some solid things to take away from this, and I was looking for that because I'm not always the most positive about AEW, but I noted as much as I could in terms of going in the right direction here and there. Jimmy's going to keep tightening these screws though, because they keep leaving them loose. But they'll get there someday, maybe. I always bring out some of my kids' action figures. He only had one of the guys in the main event tonight, so this is all I got to kind of show off a little Hangman action. He's too smiley in this incarnation. I gotta put some blood on him or something like that. But as far as where you can find me, at Jon Jordan on X. No H. I'm the OG. There's no numbers. There's no anything. I got in there early, and so that's why it's just at Jon Jordan. And check us out at Wrestling Inc. We've always got the latest and greatest news, some exclusives coming out this week. Check us out there. And if you want to see me here, let the powers that be know, right? I'm not here to take anybody's spot, but hey, they can always add another one every once in a while, right? I always have a good time.
Absolutely. Everyone leave the note in the comments. And John, it's like I said, it's always great having you. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I did not get there fast enough, so I had to add that little extra word in there. I love chaos and anarchy and nuts and craziness. So I love this show. I love this week. And I thought this was a fantastic one. AEW, I keep saying, has been on a roll for me personally because I like craziness. I'm like the Michael Keaton Joker. You want to get crazy, or Michael Keaton Batman. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That's what I like my pro wrestling. Right. So find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I'm going to be on the call for Santino Bros LA Rumble on Saturday. It's not like a Royal Rampage. It's more like a Royal Rumble. 30 people enter. One person gets a shot at the championship. It's on Fight TV. You can see it anywhere on planet Earth. Also, make sure to follow at Wrestling Inc. for all your latest wrestling news. Make sure to check out the SmackDown after show on Friday. I do not know who's on that one. I think it's probably going to be Glenn and Flobo. I think they're usually the ones doing it. But do yourself a favor, check it out and find out in real time. That does it for us. I'm going to hit the end stream button, and we